He's one of India's most beloved and respected judges, and yet he did not make it to the Supreme Court. Why? That is the question posed by three of India's top legal minds. I'm Barkha Dutt, here with the Mojo Story. We're talking about Justice Muralidhar, who has recently retired from the Odisha High Court at the age of 62. Now, in perhaps an unprecedented joint op-ed, three of India's top legal minds, Fali Nariman, Justice Kokur and Sriram Panchu have come together in the Indian Express to say that the Collegium must explain its reason for not bringing Justice Muralidhar, whom they call the diamond the Collegium failed to place in the crown of the Supreme Court. They want answers from the Collegium. And earlier, talking to us, Justice Madan even suggested that in the absence of any other explanation, he can only think that it is politics that has stood between Justice Muralidhar and the Supreme Court. What might that say then, if that's true, about the authority and the independence of the Collegium? Ordinary citizens might ask. We have a very, very special guest on the program today. We're very honored to have him. He's probably India's most respected and loved legal mind. Fali Nariman is with us, constitutional expert, author, a man of so many parts. It's such a pleasure to see you, Mr. Nariman. Good to see you. And also joining us is Sriram Panchu. These are two of the co-authors of that op-ed. Sriram is, of course, a senior advocate and also a constitutional expert. Mr. Nariman, I must start with you. What made you raise these questions of the Collegium? You list a number of questions along with Sriram and Justice Kokur. Do you believe the Collegium owes an answer? What are you hoping to place in the public domain as a matter of constitutional principle when you raise these questions about Justice Muralidhar not coming to the Supreme Court? Fali Nariman.
Yes, Barkha, thank you. You see, I have always felt that somehow at some point of time there is injustice to individual judges of high courts. And if anybody reads my memoirs, Before Memory Fades, you will find that recorded in a chapter, which is chapter 16, which says the case that I won, but I thought I should have lost it. And that case is the case where 9 judges decided on the collegium system, which is now established as the system after the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court has struck down the National Judicial Commission as was proposed by the BJP government. Now, the point that I make is that ultimately, this is a matter of individual assessment. But somehow in the case of Muralidhar, I felt compelled to say what I did, only because it is the thin end of the wedge, as it were, the thin end of the wedge. And when you say questions to be asked and answered, etc., I don't think the Supreme Court is bound to answer anything. They are entitled to say that, well, we've thought about the matter and we chose not to recommend him. Well, very well. Now we can debate about it, but I don't think we are entitled to ask. Therefore, the title of this is a question for the Supreme Court. It's a question for debate amongst the people, right-thinking people, even wrong-thinking people, who wish to contribute something to the judicial till. So sorry, you wanted to ask me something.
Yes.
Yeah.
My question is, let me frame it like this. You say that there is injustice that has sometimes taken place against individual judges. Do you believe that the Collegium has been unjust and unfair to Justice Muralidhar?
It is not only this collegium, it is the previous collegium that transferred him. That was equally bad. And there was no basis for him to be transferred out from the Delhi High Court to Punjab, although they happened to take his consent, etc., for that purpose. but actually he was not willing to go. I don't know why he ultimately did go. So then he went to the as Chief Justice, and then apparently there's a grave error for another collegium, which also said that he should be transferred from the High Court of Orissa as Chief Justice to as Chief Justice of the Chartered High Court, the original one of the three original Chartered High Courts in the country, in the British India, namely the Madras High Court, a very prestigious High Court. So even that did not work out. And apart from not working out, the Collegium then withdrew that and then appointed another person as Chief Justice. Now, for that, there is no explanation at all. And in the explanation, I mean, as an explanation in the public mind, we don't know why this was done. And that's why you see the collegium system, there's something basically wrong with it. And that's why I suggested a few months ago that we should restore the commission, judicial commission, but not the one that was introduced by the BJP government, but the one which was recommended by a former Chief Justice Venkatachala, and was actually in the form of a bill which was introduced. And the only reason why the bill didn't go through was that elections were called. So the bill lapsed. So as a matter of fact, you see, the judges of the Supreme Court are excellent in writing judgments and in deciding cases, but they are not so excellent when it comes to appointment of judges. That's the basic problem.
Can I interrupt you, because you are making a very important point, which, as you said, you have referred to in your memoirs. But in the context of the present news cycle, the present debate, I must ask you directly: are you saying, Mr. Fali Nariman, that you believe that the Muralidhar case, the failure of Justice Muralidhar to be brought to the Supreme Court, is one more illustration in your mind that the collegium system as it exists is flawed and needs to be replaced with a different system? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Now, whether that system will be work or not work, I don't know. Because you see, basically what happens is, and that's why at bottom, I'm opposed to a major, or let me say, instead of saying opposed, I'm not happy with a majoritarian government. Whether it was the Congress government or the BJP government, they have behaved in exactly the same way, because everybody wants to control their own policies, their own appointments, etc., and support them. In the old days, for the first 10 years of the Supreme Court's functioning, there was no difficulty. When the Chief Justice was consulted, whatever he said was accepted. Then we came into Chief Justices who were suspect, or whether they were suspect or not. There was, and therefore it was suggested, and that is the famous second judge's case, which says that we should have consensus amongst not just one, the Chief Justice, but amongst three or amongst five. But somehow it hasn't worked. And this is one great illustration of why it has not worked at all.
Yeah. Now that's a big statement coming from you, that the Muralidhar case is an illustration of the failure of the collegium system. I'm going to come back to you. I just want to bring in one comment from Sriram. Sriram, is that what you think, or do you think that any other system, as others have argued, is even worse than the collegium system? Fali Nariman makes the point about both the Congress and the BJP governments wanting to exercise control over the judiciary. The collegium system has been defended by those who believe that any other system would give even more power to government, which is what the NJAC system attempted to do. When we look at the Justice Muralidhar case, do you see the failure of the collegium system? Do you see the subjectivity of the collegium system? Because Fali reminds us that even the previous collegium was unfair to Justice Muralidhar. Sriram?
No. So, take Fali's point, and he spoke about a body like the NJAC, but of the kind that Justice Venkatachala had propounded. Now, if you have a proper NJAC, you will have a majority of judges, but you will also have space for other people. You will have space for, let's say, an eminent leader from the bar, maybe an eminent public person. And that's the point. They will be able to ask questions on that NJSC. They will be able to say, why not Muralidhar? That is exactly the point about having an NJSC with outside members. By all means, majority for the judges, but have outside members so they will ask the right questions. We are suffering in this case because the right questions are not being asked.
Now,
The collegium
Fali
is
Nariman, the collegium is opaque. Fali Nariman says the collegium isn't going to respond. Sriram, Mr. Nariman says the collegium is not going to respond, nor is it obliged to with the op-ed you've written. What are you hoping to achieve, therefore, with this op-ed that the three of you have written? Sriram?
We have, I think, achieved what we wanted to achieve in, highlighting people to the fact that these are serious issues over here. It is not just Muralidhar. It is something much bigger. Muralidhar is an illustration, as Fali says. But what am I hoping from the collegium? I'm hoping for a degree of sensitivity. That if this is something which has really sparked off, this kind of outrage, and it's not just the three of us, there's a whole lot out there. I'm hoping for a degree of sensitivity. And I don't know, with that degree of sensitivity, this may be completely wishful thinking, you might laugh at me. But is it so far out of the pale for the collegium to say, look, maybe we made a mistake? Is it beyond them to, wait, hang on, is it beyond them to explain to us, this is what we did, and this is why we couldn't go through with it?
Yeah.
Or do they want to say, we refute your assessment of how good a man he is? By all means. Or the fourth is just complete silence, which most people think it's going to be silence. But it need not be silence. A sensitive collegium could do things differently.
Okay, I have only 2 or 3 minutes left with Mr. Nariman, so I want to use them well. Mr. Nariman, Justice Muralidhar, 62, has a lot to offer. That's one of the points that your op-ed makes. When you say the collegium system is flawed, and the Muralidhar case is one more case that illustrates that, what would you say to those that say any other system would give too much power to the government of the day?
Yes, you're perfectly correct. Yes, I don't know whether I have an answer to that. That is why I said that God save us sometimes from majoritarian governments. This is the problem of majoritarian governments. That's the only thing I would have. You see, this is why every majoritarian government in our country, ever since independence, ever since the constitution was there, has attempted to dislodge any state which supports, which is a party to a different political party than the center. Every government, Congress government did the same thing. The BJP government did, NDA government did the same thing. The BJP government, after its supermajority in 2019, has done the same thing. It's a common system. It's not that one is anti-BJP or anti-Congress, but this is the system which we have developed, and we have not been able to work it. Now, whether it is due to something in the backbone of judges or not is a different question. That all depends. Whether judges take it to heart, they consider it to be absolutely necessary that they must be seen to be independent, not merely independent in thought, but seen to be independent. The public must know that this person, I have supreme confidence in him. You see, because Muralidhar is not the only instance. As I said, if you read that chapter of mine, you'll find there was a previous judge, an excellent judge, who was Mr. Justice Pense, who had to retire as Chief Justice of Karnataka. He was a man absolutely fit for the Supreme Court as well. He was not appointed. So it's not the present collegium that I'm complaining about. I'm complaining about the system. As to what is a better system, someone should think about it and give their impression.
Can I ask you before we say thank you to both of you, because I know you have to go for your evening walk, Mr. Nariman, and I don't want to keep you from it. My question is this. Do you believe, Justice Madan, who spoke to us earlier along with Sriram, he said, in the absence of any other explanation, I can only think politics. There is a degree of politics because of which Muralidhar has not been brought to the Supreme Court. Do you believe that? Do you think that? Do you think Justice...
No, I don't think so. No, I don't ascribe this to politics amongst judges. What I do say is that this is the system in which we operate. That is why I blame the system of a majoritarian government. Why
But
is
you
it?
are suggesting, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. You are suggesting that powerful governments, judiciary, the collegium finds it difficult to take on powerful governments, whether they be of the Congress or the BJP.
Yes, yes, and not just the present set of judges, the prior set of judges as well. I mean, this is not a phenomenon that is ascribed only to this set of judges.
So you do believe that the collegium is scared of powerful governments?
Yeah, they could be. They could be.
They
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah,
I think that's what Justice Kokur meant when he said it could be politics, the fear of power.
Yeah, but you see, everything is mixed up with politics. How do we separate the judiciary from politics? We cannot. Therefore, you have to have that. You see, that's why constitutional experts abroad have come to this conclusion, and that's the important thing. That why do they have an opposition in the British Parliament, and why is the leader of the opposition called the leader of His Majesty's opposition, the leader
Yeah.
of Her Majesty's opposition, not just opposition. That is to say, that democracy doesn't work unless you have the government and the opposition.
All right, Sriram's wanting to
You
come
have
in, but I
respect
didn't.
for both.
Yeah, Mr. Nariman's going to be very angry with me if I don't say goodbye soon. Sriram, 30 seconds to you and then closing word to him. Sriram, go ahead.
For Fali may remember an old rhyme from the 1920s, Finley Peter Dunn. It says, the Constitution follows the flag and the Supreme Court follows the election returns. That's 1920.
That's quite cynical. Mr. Nariman, what would you expect the collegium to do in response to the op-ed that the three of you have written?
No, I know what they will do. Nothing. That's why I say it's a bit impetuous of us to have said we want an answer, etc. We can't get an answer. There's no question. But we can certainly have a debate as we are having just now and decide the thing for themselves. Because I don't blame the present set of judges or the previous set of judges. That's not a question of apportioning blame. It's a question of seeing whether we can have a system that works. I'm not very sure what that system should be, and therefore, in that sense, I am deficient. But that has to be pointed out at some point of time, and this is a stark case, like it was Justice Pence's case.
All right. I'll only say long live the impetuous nature of ideas in debate. We need more impetuous debates. I'll say thank you to Sriram Panchu, to Fali Nariman for starting this debate. It's a needed debate. It's a debate that isn't coming from a framework of government versus collegium, which is how the debate has been framed thus far. And that is why this is such an important debate. Thank you, Mr. Panchu. Thank you, Mr. Nariman. A privilege to have you with us.
Thanks
See you
a lot.
soon. And thank you.
Thanks, partner. Sriram. Bye.
Thank you. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.